The throne hall of the Zareth Dominion stretched higher than the tallest human skyscraper. Its walls shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the light of the three suns that hung in the sky outside. In the center of the hall, upon a raised platform of carved obsidian, sat the alien queen, Lyrathia, her form regal and terrifying. Her armor, a legendary masterpiece forged in the core of a dying star, gleamed with an inner fire. It was said that no weapon could pierce it, and no hand could touch it without the queen's permission. The hall was silent, save for the low hum of the Zareth guards and the occasional clinking of ceremonial chains. All eyes were on the queen, whose piercing violet gaze swept across her court. Lyrathia's long, multi-jointed arms rested on the armrests of her throne, and her exoskeleton seemed to pulse with power. Generals, advisors, and noble dignitaries bowed low, their heads brushing the floor as if mere proximity to her throne could burn them. Suddenly the queen stiffened. Her claws flexed. Her violet eyes narrowed to slits. A wave of anger swept over the hall like a storm. "Who touched my armor?" she roared, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. The sound was not merely a shout. It was a force that made the very air vibrate. A gasp spread through the room. The generals froze. Not one of them dared to speak. In Zareth culture, touching the queen's armor without permission was the highest offense imaginable. Punishment was death, and not a quick death, but a slow, ceremonial one that left the offender's name dishonored for eternity. The queen rose from her throne, her height and presence now magnified by the polished metal beneath her feet. Her armor, which had always radiated awe, now seemed almost alive, its fractures invisible to the untrained eye. The room felt smaller under her fury. Finally, from the far back of the hall, a human stepped forward. The sound of boots on the metal floor echoed loudly, breaking the tense silence. Commander Marcus Hale of the United Earth Forces walked calmly toward the throne. The Zareth guards tensed, their claws scraping against their weapons. "How dare he?" one muttered in a low voice, eyes wide with fear. Marcus stopped several meters from the queen, lifting his hand slightly in a gesture of respect. His suit of armor, human-made but battle-worn, bore scratches and dents from previous missions. He did not bow deeply as the Zareth expected. He looked up at the queen without flinching. "I touched it," he said plainly. The words were simple, almost casual, but the impact was immediate. A wave of shock rippled through the hall. The queen froze. For the first time in centuries, a Zareth in her presence spoke without fear. Her head tilted slightly and the hum of her armor grew louder. "You touched it?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of fury and disbelief. "You dare touch the sacred armor of Lyrathia, queen of the Zareth?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, your majesty. But I did not do it out of disrespect." The generals hissed through clenched teeth. They whispered to each other, questioning his sanity. "This human. He will die for this," one muttered. Lyrathia's eyes glowed brighter. "Explain yourself," she said, her voice carrying the weight of worlds. Marcus drew a small device from his belt, holding it so the queen could see. "I noticed something," he began. "Your armor. It is not as impervious as you believe. There are tiny fractures forming along the seams. They are nearly invisible, but they will grow. Soon, if nothing is done, the armor could fail when you need it most." Silence followed. The Zareth court had never questioned the strength of the queen's armor. To suggest that it could fail was sacrilege. Yet Marcus spoke with calm authority, his eyes steady as he met hers. "Fractures," Lyrathia repeated almost mechanically. Her mind raced. How could a human know what no Zareth had seen? The armor had been tested in countless battles and had never shown weakness. Yet the human's words planted a seed of doubt. Marcus stepped closer, undeterred by the tension. "I can show you," he said. "It is microscopic and no traditional scan will detect it. But my technology can. I touched the armor because I wanted to examine it carefully without breaking it. That is why I am here." The queen's fury did not vanish, but curiosity began to temper it. "You touch the armor and speak boldly," she said. "You claim knowledge beyond any Zareth. And yet you are human. Why should I not strike you down this instant?" Marcus smiled faintly, the kind of smile that spoke of quiet confidence. "Because I am not your enemy, your majesty. I only wish to prevent harm to you. The cracks, they are caused by a parasite hidden in the core of the armor. It feeds on the stellar metals. Left unchecked, it could weaken the armor and put you at risk during battle." The generals whispered in panic. "A parasite? Inside the queen's armor?" That was impossible. Their sacred artifact, untouchable and unbreakable, compromised. The idea alone caused chaos in their ranks. Lyrathia's multi-jointed arms flexed. She leaned forward, examining Marcus closely. A human claims to see what centuries of Zareth vigilance could not. You are either a fool or a prophet. Marcus kept his voice steady. I am neither. I am simply a soldier trained to observe and adapt. The armor's flaw is real. I touched it to confirm it. If you allow me, I can help you remove the parasite before it spreads further. For a long moment, the queen remained silent, her mind processing. Then, with a sudden motion, she slammed her clawed hand onto the armrest. The sound echoed like a thunderclap. You will not be executed. Yet, she said, her voice carrying both warning and intrigue. But you must prove your claim. If you lie, or if the armor is unharmed and you brought me false fear, you will regret ever entering this hall. Marcus nodded. I understand. The queen rose fully, towering over him. Prepare yourself, human, she said. For the eyes of the Zareth watch all, and none survive deceit. Marcus remained calm. He knew the danger, but he also knew the truth. Human soldiers survived by thinking, adapting, and daring when others froze. And in this moment, humanity would show the Zareth that courage and intelligence could cross even the greatest of divides. The queen signaled to her advisors. Bring the armor here. Let us see what the human claims. As the massive suit of armor was carefully moved from its pedestal, the hum of the hall grew louder, vibrating against Marcus's chestplate. Every Zareth in the room watched with a mixture of fear and awe. And at the center of it all, Marcus stood unflinching. A human alone among a species that had dominated the stars for millennia. This was the moment that would define him and perhaps redefine the Zareth forever. The throne hall was filled with tension as the massive armor rested in the center, gleaming under the light of the three suns. Zareth warriors and generals surrounded it, their exoskeletons shimmering like polished obsidian. Every one of them stared at Marcus Hale, the human who had dared touch the sacred armor of their queen. Some of their eyes burned with fear, others with anger, but none could look away. Queen Lyrathia's violet eyes, sharp as twin blades, never left Marcus. Show me what you claim, she demanded. Prove that this human's touch has uncovered something beyond our understanding. Marcus took a deep breath and activated the small device he had carried from his ship. A soft glow pulsed along its surface, casting light over his face and the armor. Your Majesty, this device can detect microscopic fractures and foreign organisms hidden deep within the armor, he said, his voice calm and firm. What I found is not visible to the naked eye, and standard Zareth scans cannot detect it. The queen's head tilted slightly. You claim the armor is compromised, she said, her voice low, dangerous. And you expect me to believe a human over my finest generals? Marcus nodded. Not belief, Your Majesty. Proof. With careful movements, he extended a small sensor from the device toward the armor's breastplate. A soft hum filled the air as it scanned, and tiny lights flickered across its surface. The generals leaned closer, whispering urgently to one another. Their fear of a human defying them battled with the shock of the possibility that Marcus might be correct. Finally, the device beeped. Marcus looked at the readout and pointed. There. See the small fractures along the seam? They are nearly invisible, but if left unchecked, they will grow larger with each battle. And that is not all. He tapped the screen again, and a faint shadow appeared in the display. There is a foreign organism inside the armor. It feeds on the metals, and it will weaken the structure over time. A murmur of disbelief ran through the room. The generals' claws twitched, some of them leaning on their weapons as if to steady themselves. Impossible, one of the senior commanders growled. The armor has never failed. It is invulnerable. Nothing can harm it. Marcus shook his head slowly. It is strong, yes, but nothing is invincible. Every material has a breaking point, even this sacred armor. He looked up at the queen. I touched it because I needed to confirm what my device detected. I wanted to be certain before telling anyone. I did it to prevent danger, not to disrespect you. Queen Lyrathia's claws flexed, the clicking sound sharp in the silent hall. And yet, human, you still dared. None in my court has ever questioned my armor, let alone touched it. Marcus met her gaze evenly. I am aware of that. But humans see differently. We survive by noticing small things others overlook, by taking risks, by acting when others hesitate. The queen studied him for a long moment. The air in the hall seemed to thicken, charged with a tension that made every being present hold their breath. Then slowly his lips, or what humans would recognize. The throne hall had fallen quiet once again, though this time the silence was different. It was not fear that hung in the air, but curiosity, a fragile curiosity born from the impossible. The Zareth generals, who had once whispered of Marcus's audacity as a disgrace, now watched him closely. Even they had to admit that his actions had saved the Queen's legendary armor. Queen Lyrathia leaned forward, her violet eyes scanning every detail of the human before her. "You removed the parasite," she said softly, though her voice carried the weight of authority. "Explain to me its origin. How did it find its way into my armor?" Marcus activated his device again, projecting a holographic map of the armor and the parasite within it. The image shimmered, showing the tiny metallic tendrils and the way they had woven themselves into the alloy. "Your Majesty, this organism is not natural," he explained. "It was engineered. Look closely. Its structure is similar to weapons used by the Korthar swarm, an ancient enemy of your people. It feeds on stellar metals, weakening anything it inhabits. Its purpose is strategic, to compromise armor and render its wearer vulnerable." A collective gasp filled the room. The generals glanced at one another, their claws flexing nervously. The Korthar swarm had been a threat centuries ago, a chaotic species that struck fear into the hearts of the Zareth. Most believed them long defeated. And yet here was evidence of their return, hidden, cunning, and deadly. How did this reach me?" one senior general asked, his voice trembling. "The armor is stored in the most secure chamber. No one could approach it." Marcus shook his head. "That is what makes this dangerous. The parasite is small, designed to bypass defenses. Someone, or something, knew your habits, the materials of your armor, and the gaps in your defenses. This was planned long ago and left to act slowly until the moment it could cause maximum damage." The Queen's claws flexed as she absorbed the information. "If what you say is true, then this is not merely an attack on my armor. It is an attack on me, and on the Zareth." Her voice hardened. "How can I trust that this is the only threat?" Marcus met her gaze steadily. "You cannot, Your Majesty. That is why preparation is necessary. This parasite is only a small part of the Korthar's strategy. If they are back, they will strike where we are weakest, and most of all, they will strike when we do not expect it." The generals shifted uneasily. A few whispered among themselves, questioning Marcus's presence and the Queen's unusual tolerance for a human standing among them. Yet no one dared challenge the Queen's decision. Her attention was fixed entirely on Marcus, the human who had just changed the course of their history. Queen Lyrathia rose from her throne, the metallic clatter of her armor echoing through the hall. "Human, your words are dangerous. They carry fear but also truth. Tell me, what do you propose? How do we fight an enemy who hides in shadows and strikes silently?" Marcus drew a small tablet from his belt, displaying schematics of the armor, the parasite, and potential vulnerabilities. "We combine our strengths," he said. "Your warriors are unmatched in combat. Your armor is legendary. But humans think differently. We improvise, adapt, and act unpredictably. Alone, either of our strengths could be defeated. Together, we can anticipate and counter the Korthar. I can help train your soldiers to see threats in new ways and act before danger strikes." The Queen considered him carefully. "And what of your people, human? Do they fight beside us, or do they remain distant observers?" Marcus shook his head. "I do not speak for all humans. But if the threat is real, it affects us as well. I can offer my experience, my knowledge, and my willingness to fight. But you must allow trust between us. Without it, the swarm will exploit every hesitation, every doubt, every weakness." The generals muttered among themselves. Some hesitated, fearful of human influence. Others saw the truth in Marcus's words. If a single human could detect what their finest sensors missed, then perhaps it was time to consider an alliance, at least temporarily. Queen Lyrathia's gaze swept across the room, silencing all discussion. "Enough," she said. "We have a choice. We can ignore this warning and prepare as we always have, or we can adapt and use the human's insight to strengthen our defenses. I choose the latter. Human, you will stay with us. You will help us prepare for what comes next." Marcus inclined his head. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." The Queen's attention returned to the armor, her violet eyes examining it with renewed scrutiny. "This armor has carried me through countless battles," she said softly, almost to herself. "It has never failed me, and yet, This parasite nearly undermined everything. It is humbling to see that even the greatest defenses have weaknesses. Marcus nodded. Even the strongest armor needs inspection, Your Majesty. Even the best warriors need perspective from another mind. That is how we survive, how we adapt, and how we grow stronger. The Queen's gaze met his, and for the first time, there was a flicker of respect, almost admiration. Your courage is undeniable, human. But courage alone does not guarantee survival. Intelligence, observation, and adaptability, these are qualities worth valuing, even among my people. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. The Queen had spoken openly, acknowledging the value of a human in their midst, a thought many had never considered. Whispers filled the hall once again, but this time they were tinged with curiosity, not fear. Marcus took the opportunity to explain his plan. First, we must ensure the armor is completely safe. I have methods to neutralize any remaining organisms that may have gone unnoticed. Next, we need to train your forces to recognize subtle threats, small anomalies, changes in the environment, and signs of Korthar activity. And finally, we prepare for direct confrontation, combining your strength and my strategies to outmaneuver them. The Queen considered his words carefully. You speak as if you have faced them before, she said. Have humans encountered the Korthar? Marcus shook his head. Not exactly. But humans have fought against beings far stronger than us. We survive because we learn quickly. We adapt to unexpected threats and we act decisively when others hesitate. That is all I offer. Perspective, strategy, and the willingness to act. The Queen's multi-jointed arms flexed as she made her decision. Very well, human. You will remain with us. Your knowledge will guide our preparation. But be warned. If you betray our trust, there will be consequences unlike any you have faced. Marcus met her gaze without fear. I understand, Your Majesty. I serve only to protect, not to betray. With that, the Queen signaled to her aides. Prepare the council chamber for strategy sessions. Human, you will participate. Generals, set aside your doubts and listen. The survival of the Zareth may depend on this cooperation. As the council chamber filled with maps, devices, and warriors, Marcus felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. He had earned their respect, but more importantly, he had opened a door to collaboration between species that had never before fought side by side. The sun outside dipped lower, casting long shadows across the throne hall, but inside a new alliance was forming, one built not on tradition or fear, but on mutual respect, courage, and the shared goal of survival. Marcus glanced at the Queen, who watched him intently. In her violet eyes he saw both challenge and acknowledgement, a recognition that humans were not to be underestimated. And for the first time, the Zareth would learn that the human way of thinking, bold and unpredictable, could be the key to their survival against an enemy they had thought long defeated. The battle ahead was uncertain, the enemy unseen and cunning. But Marcus knew one thing: the galaxy underestimated humanity at their own peril. And with the Queen's armor secured, the seeds of a new strategy were planted, one that could change the fate of two species forever. Outside the chamber, the stars began to twinkle in the dimming sky. Inside, humans and Zareth alike prepared for the trials to come. And for Marcus, the journey had only just begun. The council chamber of the Zareth Dominion was vast and circular, its walls lined with holographic displays that projected maps of distant star systems. Queen Lyrathia stood at the center, her multi-jointed arms folded across her chest as she listened to Commander Marcus Hale outline his strategy. The parasite had been removed, but its existence had revealed a far greater threat: the Korthar swarm, a species long thought extinct. Marcus moved among the generals and officers, pointing to areas on the holographic maps. The swarm doesn't fight like you do, he explained. They attack in waves, striking unpredictably. Their goal isn't to defeat your armies outright. It's to destabilize, to create confusion. We need to prepare for both direct confrontation and infiltration. A senior general, a towering Zareth with serrated claws, snorted. You speak as if you know our enemies better than we do, human. We have fought the swarm before. They are strong but predictable. Their patterns are well documented in our archives. Marcus shook his head. That was then. They've evolved. What you see in the archives is history. What we face now is adaptation. We need to do more than rely on tradition. We need to think differently, and that is where humans excel. We improvise. We act when others hesitate. The Queen's violet eyes swept over the chamber, silencing the murmurs of disagreement. Enough, she said. The human has proven his value. You will listen and cooperate, or you will answer to me. The generals fell silent, but their expressions betrayed doubt. Many had. The twin suns hung high in the sky, casting long, fiery beams across the plains outside the Zareth capital. Soldiers of the Zareth Dominion lined up in tight formations, their polished armor gleaming like molten metal. Humans, though smaller and less physically imposing, stood among them, their presence a strange but reassuring sight. Commander Marcus Hale moved along the lines, inspecting troops and issuing last-minute instructions. Remember, he said firmly, the swarm strikes where we least expect it. They thrive on chaos and fear. Stick to your formations, but don't be afraid to act independently when the situation demands it. Trust your instincts, adapt, and communicate. That is how we survive, some Zareth grunted, unconvinced. Many had trained for centuries under rigid rules, but Marcus had taught them that flexibility could be just as important as discipline. Today, that lesson would be tested. Queen Larathia arrived on the battlefield with her elite guards, her armor reflecting the sunlight like liquid fire. She rode atop a hovering platform, surveying the scene with violet eyes that had seen centuries of war. Her presence alone inspired fear in enemies and courage in her troops. Marcus, she said, her multi-jointed arms flexing, I trust your judgment. We follow your plan? Marcus nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. Positions are set. We lure them toward the center and use your flanks to trap them. Humans will assist with unpredictability tactics, creating openings the swarm won't anticipate. The ground trembled beneath the first wave of Korthar assault ships. They moved like a living storm, dark and twisted, their armor glinting with alien technology. The Zareth forces held their lines, but even they felt the pressure of the approaching enemy. Marcus raised his hand, signaling the first maneuver. Small squads of human and Zareth units advanced together, taking positions on elevated ridges and hidden cover. The Korthar struck first, sending swarms of biomechanical creatures that could dissolve armor with corrosive plasma. The battle erupted with a thunderous roar. Zareth warriors met the swarm head-on, their strength and precision unmatched. But the Korthar's numbers were overwhelming, their attacks unpredictable. Some Zareth faltered, unsure how to respond to threats outside their training. Marcus acted quickly, moving among the units. Focus on weak points, he shouted. Divide them. Disrupt their formations. He led a small team along a ridge using human tactics of ambush and deception. They fired plasma projectiles from hidden positions, luring Korthar forces into traps set by the Queen's flanks. The swarm's advance was slowed, but the pressure remained intense. Queen Larathia's voice carried over the battlefield, sharp and commanding. Hold the center. Protect the flanks. Do not let them break our lines. The human ingenuity combined with Zareth strength created a rhythm the swarm did not expect. Marcus directed small teams to exploit openings, guiding Zareth units to act unpredictably while maintaining cohesion. Slowly the tide began to turn, yet the Korthar were relentless. One massive wave broke through a weak point in the right flank, forcing the Queen herself to engage in close combat. Her multi-jointed arms moved with deadly precision, crushing enemies and deflecting plasma strikes. Marcus and a squad of human soldiers moved to support her, creating a protective shield while others pushed the remaining swarm back. Marcus, a Zareth commander shouted. They are too many. Marcus assessed the situation quickly. We're not finished. Use the terrain. Channel them between ridges. Force them to bunch up. That's when we strike. He signaled a coordinated attack. Human units fired precision plasma blasts, hitting the swarm in tight clusters, while Zareth warriors swept in with overwhelming force. The Korthar, unprepared for this combined strategy, began to falter. Their organized chaos was disrupted, their strength less effective. Marcus seized the moment. Now push forward. Zareth and human forces surged together. The Queen led the charge, her armor shining like a beacon of power. Soldiers moved with new confidence, inspired by the humans' unpredictability and Marcus's guidance. Every move was calculated yet adaptable, turning the battlefield into a dance of strategy and strength. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The twin suns cast long shadows as the battle raged, and slowly, the Korthar's forces began to break. Their formations dissolved under coordinated attacks, Their numbers dwindled, and their retreat became inevitable. Queen Lyrathia stood atop a ridge, surveying the aftermath. The field was littered with defeated Korthar, yet the Zareth and human forces remained largely intact. She looked at Marcus, her violet eyes gleaming with pride and respect. "You were right, human," she said. "Your tactics, your thinking. It saved lives today. Not just yours, but mine and those of my soldiers." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "We did it together, Your Majesty. Humans and Zareth side by side. That is how we win," the Queen nodded. "You have proven yourself worthy of the title I promised you, the first human warborn. Wear it not as honor, but as a reminder of what we achieved together." Marcus felt a surge of pride. The title meant more than recognition. It was proof that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could bridge the divide between species. He had earned respect not through brute strength, but through strategy and foresight, the very qualities humans prized most. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the battlefield, the survivors tended to the wounded and repaired what they could. The victory was hard won, but the alliance had been tested and proven. Marcus knew that the Korthar swarm would not stop here. They would return, perhaps stronger and more cunning. But for now, humanity had shown its value. The Zareth had seen firsthand that intelligence and bravery could turn the tide of battle. And for Marcus, the knowledge that he had helped save an entire species, if only temporarily, was a reward beyond words. Queen Lyrathia approached him as the troops regrouped. "You have done well, Marcus Hale. Today you have not only earned my respect but that of my people. Perhaps humans are more than we imagined." Marcus inclined his head, his armor scratched and scorched but his spirit unbroken. "We are survivors, Your Majesty. We face impossible odds and find a way. That is what humans do." The Queen smiled faintly, a rare expression that softened her fearsome features. "Then, Warborn, let us prepare for the future. This victory is ours, but the war is far from over. Together we will face what comes next, and we will endure." As night fell over the battlefield, the twin moons rose to join the stars above. Fires burned in the distance, marking the aftermath of battle. Soldiers, both human and Zareth, tended to one another, sharing stories, laughter, and cautious optimism. Marcus walked among them, observing, encouraging, and learning. He had come to the Zareth as an outsider, a single human among millions of alien warriors, and yet through courage, strategy, and sheer determination, he had forged a bond that transcended species. The galaxy was vast, and threats were many, but for the first time in history, humans and Zareth stood together, not as separate forces but as allies. And in that unity, Marcus saw a glimmer of hope for the future. Tonight, the Korthar had been driven back. Tomorrow, the real challenge awaited. But humanity had proven its worth. The Warborn Alliance was born, and with it a new chapter in galactic history had begun. The battlefield was quiet now, though the air still hummed with tension. Fires from the day's battle smoldered across the plains, and the cries of the wounded and exhausted filled the space between the soldiers. Marcus Hale walked carefully among the Zareth and human troops, observing the aftermath. Though victory had been claimed, the cost was visible. Many warriors, both human and Zareth, nursed bruises, burns, and exhaustion. Queen Lyrathia's armor gleamed even in the dim light of the twin moons rising overhead. She had returned to the field after ensuring her elite guards were secure, her violet eyes scanning the troops. Despite the fatigue in her posture, her gaze carried authority and pride. "Commander Marcus Hale," she said, her voice steady. "You have done more than any Zareth could have imagined, not just in battle but in uniting our forces." Marcus shook his head slightly. "I did not do it alone, Your Majesty. Your soldiers fought with courage, precision, and adaptability. Humans may provide strategy, but it is the strength of your people that makes victory possible." The Queen inclined her head, acknowledging the truth in his words. "Perhaps, but it is rare for a human to earn the respect of the Zareth so quickly. You have proven that intelligence and courage can cross the boundaries of species." A young Zareth soldier approached, his armor scratched and dented from battle. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing, "and you, human. The soldiers speak of you. They say we are stronger together, that the humans' ways have changed how we fight." Marcus gave the soldier a small nod. "That is the point. Strength alone is not enough. When we combine intelligence, adaptability, and courage, we become unstoppable. You all have proven that today. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze fixed on Marcus. Today, the Korthar were driven back. But this war is far from over. We must prepare for the day they return, and they will return. They are cunning, patient, and relentless. We must be ready. Marcus nodded, agreed. But today we have a foundation. We have proven that humans and Zareth can work together. We have created a strategy the swarm cannot predict, and that unpredictability is our greatest advantage. The Queen considered this. Hervey,